$60 billion. That is what SpaceX says it may pay for Cursor, a 2-year-old coding assistant startup that was valued at roughly $2.5 billion less than a year ago. The number alone stopped traders mid-session, but the buyer is what made it stranger. The broader U.S. market on Tuesday struggled to find conviction. The S&P 500 slipped 0.63% to close at 7,064, and the Nasdaq shed 0.59% to 24,420. Indexes opened higher, then erased gains as crude prices jumped on renewed Iran concerns after Trump extended a ceasefire that his own officials said was already under strain. GE Aerospace reported a near 30% revenue jump and beat earnings by more than $1 a share. Yet the company still lost $20 billion in market cap intraday, a reminder that strong numbers in a nervous market can still get punished. Alaska Air grounded its outlook on fuel costs. United Health surged 9% on earnings strength. The session was a collection of contradictions, which made it easy to miss the one story that may matter most for the next decade of AI investment. SpaceX announced Tuesday that it had struck a deal giving it the right to acquire Cursor later this year for $60 billion, or to pay $10 billion for the work the two companies are doing together if no acquisition happens. Cursor CEO Michael Truhl confirmed the partnership, describing it as a meaningful step towards scaling the company's AI model, Composer. In exchange, Cursor gets access to SpaceX's Colossus supercomputer, powered by 200,000 NVIDIA GPUs, effectively 1 million H100 equivalent units of compute. The announcement hit just as the New York Times had reported a $50 billion figure, and SpaceX immediately corrected the record itself on X, a detail that signals this was not an accidental leak.
Amazon just agreed to invest $25 billion in Anthropic, a company building frontier AI models. That deal made intuitive sense. AWS wants to be the cloud of record for the most capable AI systems, and locking in Anthropic for $100 billion of compute over a decade defends that position. Anthropic commits to more than $100 billion in AWS usage in return. The logic is clean. This SpaceX Cursor deal is harder to read at first. SpaceX is not primarily an AI company. It builds rockets and satellite networks. Yet it is also sitting on one of the largest private GPU clusters in the world, and it is prepping for what would be one of the most anticipated IPOs in years. The Colossus supercomputer was built to support Grok and xAI, Elon Musk's AI lab, but that relationship apparently left room for SpaceX to deploy its compute infrastructure as a strategic asset in its own right. By partnering with Cursor, SpaceX is not just buying software. It is using its compute as leverage to acquire a distribution advantage, direct access to the expert software engineers who use Cursor daily, the people who build and operate AI systems for every major company in the world. That is the part the $60 billion number obscures. Cursor's value is not its model. It is its installed base among professional developers, a demographic that every AI platform needs and almost none of them own directly. Microsoft owns GitHub Copilot, which competes directly with Cursor. Google is internally anxious about losing the AI coding race, per Bloomberg. The Financial Times ran a headline in Houston: SpaceX strikes $60 billion deal to acquire AI startup Cursor. The Reuters version noted the alternative: $10 billion for our work together. Both figures are extraordinary for a company this young. Here is the tension that doesn't resolve cleanly. SpaceX is not OpenAI. It does not have the enterprise sales infrastructure, the regulatory relationships, or the brand positioning to compete directly in the developer tools market. If this is a financial option, a right to buy rather than a commitment, then the $60 billion valuation is partly a signal, not just a price. It tells the market that compute-rich private companies can define the terms of AI deal-making, even without being AI companies. That changes the landscape for every other GPU cluster operator wondering what their infrastructure is worth.
The last time a single acquisition number reshaped how the market thought about an entire sector, it was Facebook paying $19 billion for WhatsApp in 2014. That deal did not make sense on revenue. It made sense on users, on the idea that owning the right distribution channel was worth more than the product itself. Cursor's user base is smaller in absolute terms, but higher in strategic density. These are the engineers building AI systems, not consumers sending photos. The current read leans toward this deal marking a turning point in how private AI infrastructure is valued, not just a headline. If SpaceX exercises the option, Cursor would become the most expensive developer tools acquisition in history by a wide margin, and it would signal that compute owners are willing to pay for distribution at a premium that traditional software multiples cannot explain. That logic holds as long as the AI coding market stays fragmented, which means as long as Microsoft's Copilot does not achieve a dominant lock-in position before the acquisition closes later this year. The condition that breaks this thesis is a Copilot consolidation. If Microsoft's new Xbox CEO pivot toward gamers is any signal, the company is still willing to reverse course on pricing and strategy when facing user resistance. And that same flexibility could be applied aggressively in the developer tools space. Microsoft faces a $2.8 billion cloud licensing lawsuit in UK courts, per Reuters, which adds a distraction. But Microsoft's AI investment thesis remains intact, and billionaire Ken Fisher is increasing his MSFT position ahead of Q3 earnings. Watch the SpaceX IPO filing timeline. The financial details disclosed in Tuesday's analyst meeting, reported by Investors Business Daily, showed a company that is preparing its public market narrative carefully. If Cursor appears on SpaceX's balance sheet before the IPO, the $60 billion figure becomes part of the IPO valuation story. If the deal stays at the $10 billion work-together level, the option expires and the market will have to decide whether Cursor's standalone value was ever real. That determination comes before year-end. The question is not whether $60 billion is too much. The question is what it buys, and whether SpaceX knows something about AI coding's next 12 months that the rest of the market does not yet see.